All right, let's get into it. So, starting off with the weather, looks good. Looks good for today. You're rolling. Um, the Great Lake area, just the whole area, the eastern side and the northern side, you get some pretty good amount of rain. That's what I see. So that's what I'm going to tell you about.
Rolling down the highway, sun just breaking through. Radio's playing loud, the show's for me and you. Learn how to book your loads and make that money flow. Keep the shiny side up wherever we go.
Let's go ahead and get into that dad joke. What kind of key is used to open bananas? A monkey. Ba-da-ba-ch. All right, let's get into it. So, starting off with the weather, looks good. Looks good for today. Hopefully, everybody's safe over there in Florida. Not a lot of rain to speak of. Everything that I can see that you might be able to see is light green on the screen. So, just some light showers. But looking forward to the weekend. Tomorrow looks like something's going to pop up in Northern California. Going to get some rain in the Northeast. But in then on Sunday, definitely keep an eye out if you're rolling. The Great Lake area, just the whole area, the eastern side and the northern side, you get some pretty good amount of rain surrounding those areas, and then actually a bit of snow potentially late Sunday night. Of course, that's a couple days from now, so who knows if that's accurate, but that's what I see. So that's what I'm going to tell you about. All right. So diving in, we're going to start with the national load counts. What this does is this gives us a barometer as far as kind of what the overall market is doing. This is not the end all be all, though. In a few minutes, we're going to look at the specific markets. Reason being, we need to know exactly where that freight's at. A good example of this would be California. If it just shows a lot of loads to trucks compared to trucks over there in California, doesn't necessarily mean the entirety of the state is in good shape. And I'm sure you'll see that here in a few minutes. So let's start off with the national load counts. So Alabama in really rough shape, 497 loads in to 179 loads out. Also, it went, never mind. We're going to cut that. Maybe. Arkansas, 311 loads in to 210 loads out. So that's down. Arizona, 440 loads in to 397 loads out. So that's actually pretty good shape for Arizona. California, 1,201 loads in, 2,414 loads out. So double the amount of loads for trucks. Definitely some negotiating power there in California. Colorado, 346 loads in to 206 loads out. Unfortunately, that's standard for Colorado. Connecticut, 90 loads in, 88 loads out. That's strong for Connecticut. DC, 4 loads out. Delaware, 48 loads in to 29 loads out. Florida, 2,156 loads in to 660 loads out. That it's pretty normal for California, but they've got a lot going on clearly. So Georgia, 1,851 loads in to 890 loads out. That's been the case for Georgia for the past few months, so that's kind of normal. Iowa, 240 loads in to 265 loads out, not starting as strong as we did last week. We'll definitely keep an eye on Iowa, though, because that's been a good state for a good ratio, for good rates, and for good negotiation. But unfortunately, not today. Idaho, 57 loads in to 176 loads out. So Northwest, that's a good start for the Northwest. Illinois, 817 loads in of 1,492 loads out. Not the best that we've seen, but definitely great shape. Got negotiating power there in Illinois. So do it. Indiana, 537 loads in to 759 loads out. So weak for Indiana starting off the week. Midwest usually comes on a little bit stronger later on in the week, but that's weak for Indiana. Unfortunately, it's still above that 50-50 mark, but because it's weak, you may not have as much negotiating power there as you would think. So just kind of keep that in mind. Kansas, 216 loads in to 143 loads out. Weak for Kansas. Kentucky, 487 loads in to 384 loads out. So we're kind of seeing the same pattern here. It's a bit weak, kind of across the board. Louisiana, 301 loads in to 266 loads out. That's down a little bit. Massachusetts, 227 loads in to 201 loads out. It's actually not terrible for Massachusetts. So if anything, the Northeast is looking a little bit stronger. Um, but not much we can necessarily say about that. Maryland, 223 loads in to 219 loads out. So that's a little weak as well. Maine, 60 loads in to 84 loads out. It's normal. Michigan, 340 loads in to 717 loads out. So that's above normal. So Great Lake states showing strong on Monday, which is, they usually come on strong later on in the week. Minnesota, 178 loads into 474 loads out. So that's a little bit above normal. I would put more, just as a side note here, I would put more weight on the loads out number as opposed to the loads in number. The loads in number seems to fluctuate greatly, but the loads out number, it really is going to help us understand kind of what that market's doing. That don't disregard the loads in number. That's certainly good to know. And I think that typically there's not a ton of people going to the Great Lakes states on that Monday just because they understand that pattern that's up there. But I mean, it's a really good ratio for Minnesota. It's up a little bit, compared to normal, but not huge. But you definitely do have negotiating power if you happen to be up there um, right now. Missouri, 477 loads in to 388 loads out. So a little bit down, but I think that's a little bit up for trucks in. So Mississippi, 225 loads in to 223 loads out. So that's a little weak for Mississippi. Montana, 57 loads in to 80 loads out. North Carolina, 1,184 loads in to 475 loads out. So not great for North Carolina. North Dakota, 30 loads in to 97 loads out. So a little bit down on the volume, and the trucks headed that way. Not a ton of negotiating power in North Dakota, but there's definitely some there. So don't disregard that. Nebraska, 137 loads in to 68 loads out. That's down for Nebraska. New Hampshire, 87 loads in to 22 loads out. New Jersey, 365 loads in to 920 loads out. So that's down on production, down on trucks headed in. I imagine a lot of what we're seeing is being affected, by Florida and what's going on with Florida. Back to back hurricanes like that. Everybody gets affected. Everybody gets affected. If you have never paid attention to this, during national disasters, or you're new to this, everywhere is going to wind up being affected. It's just the way it goes. New Mexico, 104 loads in, 107 loads out. So we're getting back into normal territory for New Mexico. I don't know. I don't know if they're beefing up numbers over there for some reason, but the massive fluctuation in freight out of a state that really doesn't do a lot of production is very sus to me. So just do with that information what you will. Nevada, 170 loads in to 552 loads out. It's way up in production for Nevada. So you definitely have negotiating power in Nevada. Use it, do it, get more money. The brokers will negotiate. I promise. And if they don't negotiate with you, the problem is you. It's you. Maybe it's your attitude. Maybe it's your negotiating technique. Maybe it's not knowing the what's going on in this particular market. So that way you can talk to them in an educated manner and give them actual reasons why they should be paying you more. It is definitely one of those three things. Like, no doubt about it. Actually, it could be number four. It could just be that the broker's an a-hole. But they're not all a-holes. They're not. I promise you, they're not. New York, 413 loads in to 757 loads out. So it's a little bit down for New York. Ohio, 805 loads in to 1,172 loads out. So that's pretty weak for Ohio. I mean, it's definitely still above that 50-50 mark, but definitely weak for Ohio. Not loving the start that we're seeing to this week. Oklahoma, 302 loads in, 130 loads out. It's normal. Oregon, 92 loads in, 342 loads out. So you've got a pretty big shift in the ratio there, but not a huge bump in production. It is up, kind of compared to normal, maybe a couple, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. But compared to the this week, seems a little bit weak. Just a tad. Not terrible, but just a tad. Pennsylvania, 955 loads out, or into 1,197 loads out. So that's down for Pennsylvania. Rhode Island, 30 loads in, 24 loads out. South Carolina, 578 loads in to 409 loads out. Not much to say about that. Just that whole southeast quadrant's not good shape. South Dakota, 48 loads into 57 loads out. Tennessee, 843 loads into 354 loads out. So that is way, way, way down. Um, if you are in Tennessee, if you're waking up in Tennessee and you're trying to find a load right now, take whatever you can get. Get the heck out of there. Open up your search wider. You may need to deadhead farther, but do not get stuck in Tennessee or even anything south or southeast of that. Not or even east. Not good. Texas, 2,661 loads in to 1,532 loads out. So that is way below average there, even for Texas. Utah, 191 loads in to 284 loads out. So West looking good. Virginia, 459 loads in to 447 loads out. So not bad for Virginia. Not a huge increase, but a little bit of an increase. Vermont, 14 loads in to 44 loads out. Washington, 255 loads into 540 loads out. So Washington is showing stronger. It looks to be Washington's going to be a little bit stronger than Oregon, at least for today. I imagine Oregon will overtake them later in the week. But for right now, Washington is the strongest Northwestern state. Wisconsin, 332 loads into 942 loads out. Ooh, love to see that start. The Great Lakes states are in decent shape. I wouldn't say great shape. I mean, Wisconsin's certainly in the best shape of those. But I'd give the Midwest, or excuse me, the Great Lakes states like a B plus right now, and maybe the Northwest like an A minus. We'll see. We'll compare this to the heat map here in a second. West Virginia, 75 loads in to dreaded question mark 100 loads out, and then Wyoming, 36 loads in to 60 loads out. We got the trend lines. Today's Friday, so I'm just gonna flash these on the screen. I'm not even gonna go into these. There's no point. Monday will be a much better day to look at these. The national spot rates, in particular, what's everything paying on average across the board? Vans are up 4 pennies from last month to $2.01. Flatbed is up 4 pennies to $2.43 from last month. And then reefer is down from last month 2 pennies to $2.36. And then the price of fuel is $3.58 on average across the board, which is up 1.13%. So looking at the heat map here, red is good, blue is bad. You see, there's a lot of blue. Was starting in the Northwest. So yeah, it's in really good shape. Obviously, the majority of the freight is going to be up there in that Washington, Oregon. It's going to be on the western half of those states. It is showing that the eastern half, kind of the northeastern half of Washington, that Spokane kind of market is showing to have heated up a little bit. But that's not a great market up there. There's not a ton up there. So just be a little wary of that. But if you're in the Portland market, just make sure that you have your deadhead set large enough to cover that Seattle market, because the Seattle market is very strong as far as that ratio is concerned. So the brokers should be a lot more willing to negotiate. But that being said, I mean, Portland area is in good shape. But the eastern half of Oregon is showing, or western half of Oregon is showing to have freight. The southwestern part being of note. There's not a ton of freight down there, but it's not bad. Let's say that. California, it's going to be the Los Angeles market, of course, is going to be your strongest. San Francisco's in okay shape. Even Sacramento's at average. That northern part showing to be hot. Be careful of that. There's not a ton of freight up there. Nevada. So the northern half of the state is shown to have the freight for Nevada, but the rest of the state is not blue. Okay, that's a good sign. It's a little bit hotter than average, or is that? Yeah, it's a little bit hotter than average. Yellow is average. So Nevada's in good shape. If you bounce back between California and Nevada, you should be pretty happy this week, at least for the start, right? Utah is average, but do with that what you will. That's not the greatest of states. Idaho, surprisingly, where it's showing where its freight's at, it's in the northern, like the Panhandle area. Uh, that's a bit surprising to me. I would expect it to be in the southern half, not the northern half. But hey, that's not what it's showing me, so I would just be a little wary of that. Texas. So you got the Houston markets and the Dallas market. The Western, the market that's directly west of Dallas is showing to be just average this week. So I would probably give the thumbs up to the Houston market again. Um, but it's not great. It's just not. The southeastern part, just the areas that have the freight, going to be Memphis or the Memphis market, Atlanta market, I guess somehow, and the southeastern Georgia market. Um, I wouldn't go that way, but I mean, if you have to, or if you're over there, there you go. The Midwest, let's start off in Kansas City. Kansas City's showing average. St. Louis is showing average. The Chicago market is okay. It's light pink. We like to see that red, but it's just not. The markets are really just not starting off strong in the eastern half of the United States this week. So um, I'm curious to see how this pans out for the rest of the week. I get the feeling that it's going to come on pretty strong come like by like Wednesday, um, but we'll see. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. Indiana, but the southern half of the state is usually red, but it's dark orange now, so just okay. The Ohio, the freight is going to be located in the northeastern part. If you've been around for a while on the channel, you know that's kind of where the most production is going to be in Ohio. And as the week progresses, that one usually stays red, usually, not always. And then the rest of the areas kind of cool off for Ohio. So that's where the freight's at up there. And then looking over on the northeast coast, or the northeast, Pennsylvania, the eastern half is showing where where the freight's located in Pennsylvania. Uh, that's a bad start for the week. Normally, almost the entirety of Pennsylvania is red, so that Pittsburgh market looks to be starting off weak. And then Jersey, you got the northern half is where the freight's at, as per usual. So that is going to be your trucking market update for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. If you stuck around this long, please give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Hey, leave a comment down below for the good old algorithms. That would be greatly appreciated. Have a great weekend. Keep the shiny side up. But as always, stay driven.